Vivek, we will just spend might be 5 more minutes on this, and I'll then request Frank to speak for a couple of minutes. If that's okay.
I have a question. It's more academic.
Go ahead. Question answers.
During the conversation, Adam, you said that as a part of the retention, you had noticed people were aspiring for multi-locational assignments. I belong to an IT offshoot of a retail organization in India, and so this is my observation. People are flexible with multifunctional assignments. So in that research, did you have any findings for the multifunctional and anything specific to IT?
Yeah, so there's a big difference between desire and ability. So there's absolutely a desire for mobility, particularly amongst that generation of workers. There's not necessarily the ability for them to move into those other roles. They're not trained, they don't have the experience, they don't have the skills or the competencies. And so this is where the whole development framework comes in. And this is where elective development starts to get very interesting. If an employee in one role has the ability to acquire the skills to move into a new role. So I'll give you a real example from last night at my company, which was an IT services worker who wanted to move into more of a sales role. So how does he get the development to be able to move into that sales role? And is it available to him? Is there training available at the company to do that? Is he able to do that perhaps himself without asking his manager for approval to do that, because it would send signals that maybe the manager is not comfortable with? So how do you tie those different pieces together into one solution?
No, you kind of assure them that you'll be trained, you'll be given time to scale up to that function. But in spite of that, you don't have too many takers. So my idea was, do you have some stat around it to say how's the aspiration to move into multifunction?
Yeah, so the question is, are people actually moving into these multi-functional roles? Absolutely. We're seeing massive mobility, particularly in the US, amongst millennials, moving not from one job to the next job in the career path, but moving from one job to a completely different job in the organization. And so by definition, they become multifunctional because maybe they were in IT and now we're in marketing, and so they now have skills in both areas, which then allows for some interesting things in the future because now you have more general management skills in the employees. You have broader skill bases within the employees. So this is actually long-term a very good thing. Short-term, it is somewhat disruptive to the way most organizations are set up. Right? You're typically moving people in marketing up from marketing, not from IT. And so most organizations need to develop a system to be able to do this, and tools, and really at the end of the day, a mindset to be willing to have that movement in the organization.
And just to add to what Adam said, I don't know by default or design. I started in sales, moved to finance, now I head HR in the same organization.
I match your profile.
Animesh, you'd like to add something in there?
Not really. I think we've kind of run out of time.
Yeah.
So
might be what we can do is we can request, some people still may have some questions of Adam or some of the others, and we can conclude to have a rolling discussion after the session is over, if that's okay with everyone.
Yes.
Yeah. And with your permission, Animesh, I'm going to request Frank to come up and speak for a couple of minutes as a closing remarks on today's discussion. And which doesn't mean that after the closing remarks you guys can't stay back and have a cup of coffee and continue to talk. So over to you, Frank. Frank's already introduced himself as the General Manager APAC of Cornerstone, so I'm not going to run through his resume.
Test.
Hello.
Okay, press this button here.
First, I'd like to thank our speakers, Vivek and Adam. Very, very insightful. Of course, I have to like Adam's speech because he's my boss. Also,
you're being transparent.
I would also like to thank Sudhir and Animesh for moderating today's session, but most importantly, I'd like to thank all of you around the table. The discussion was fantastic, actually. I took some notes. some of this is, it all tied very well together. So we have this first being led with this link between our talent strategies and the CEO agenda. And really the call for HR to be more savvy in technology and data, and then what do we do with that data? You know, how can we not rely just on the data, but start to humanize our systems? I think that was very insightful. And really transparency. So not only should we be transparent and should we make decisions around transparency, but how do we enable that transparency not only through technology, but how we communicate it. So what is our role in HR in communicating transparency? Also very insightful. That really does begin to drive culture. So we talked a little bit about culture. We talked about Cornerstone culture. We had some questions around how you create culture. And in particular, there was some discussion around the culture of learning. And really the changes that are happening in the world that are driving not only our desire to have a culture of learning, but how people learn. So there's different types of content now. There's different mechanisms for consuming content, including learning management systems. And in particular, what the newest technologies do to enable that culture of learning or a culture of effective talent management. And one of the things we talked about is principles of consumerization. So I think this is absolutely critical. I think Adam reinforced it, and I also think Prashant made a very great point around change management. A lot of this has to do with how well our systems are consumerized. And I think the most important point that we can take around consumerization is that as people, we are consumers in our lives and we are employees at work. And if our systems do not behave like the systems that we use every day in our life, like Facebook and LinkedIn, people will not only be dissatisfied, but they will not use them. So fantastic discussion. I thank you all for that. I'd just like to tell you a little bit about Cornerstone On Demand. So what do we do? We're obviously a cloud computing company that's been around for almost 16 years. And basically, we are a unified platform, single code base, that really allows you to recruit and source new employees, to onboard those employees in a very effective way, to manage those employees through their performance, whether that performance be once a year, 3 times a year, 5 times a year on the anniversary date, or in real time through social feedback like you would give someone on LinkedIn or on Facebook. How we compensate our employees, how we enable mobility of our employees, and in meaningful ways, not just classic succession planning, which is who's going to take the CEO or the CHRO's role, but how do we plan for pivotal roles that we need in the organization? How do we identify the people who could be in those pivotal roles? How do we develop them to be ready as groups of people when the organization is going to need them in 1, 2, or 3 years? And by the way, where you're going to need them at different places in the world. Adam said that I think it was 70% or 76% of employees want to work outside the country. I'm actually a great example of that. So I'm an American living in Hong Kong, responsible for Asia Pacific, working across many, many different geographies. So I was granted and afforded that opportunity by Adam, but it was, because of some insights that he had on me. And then really succession planning in a different light is career development or career pathing. How do we allow our employees or empower our employees to say, I'm in this position today, and I would like to be in this position tomorrow, another position tomorrow. And what is the gap that currently exists, whether it be a competency gap, a skill gap, an experience gap, an education gap, or any other kind of gap? How do I close it? So how do you empower me to close that? And that's very powerful for organizations who can have that level of talent capability. But ultimately, all of these things are tied together through learning. And we believe learning is at the core. Learning and development is the core of everything that organizations do to attract, retain, manage, develop their people, and give them opportunities for mobility. So that is the comprehensive view of what we do. And as I said, we've been around for almost 16 years. Interestingly, our entree into Asia Pacific was in India. About 5 years ago, we started Cornerstone India, and originally it was actually for talent reasons. It wasn't to sell to the Indian market. It was to tap into the very skilled labor pool that's here. And we were very, very successful in doing that. We have over 125 people in India right now across 3 offices. Our flagship office is over in Andheri East in Mumbai. And we have an office in New Delhi and just recently added an office in Bangalore. So that was our entree into Asia Pacific, but clearly we said there is incredible opportunity in Asia Pacific, incredible opportunity in India, and so we should be acquiring clients in this region of the world. And by the way, we very thoughtfully did this. We knew that all of our competitors were here trying to figure out how to sell their products in Asia Pacific and in India. And we watched very closely. We not only watched our competitors, but we watched companies like Salesforce.com, who was a pioneer in cloud computing. We watched all of this, and we very explicitly timed our entry into Asia Pacific about 30 months ago. So 30 months ago, we decided to go for what I guess one would call a big bang, at least for a small company like us, which is entering 5 sub-regions of Asia Pacific all at the same time. India, we already had a presence here, but we had to hire sales and service delivery teams. But we also entered Southeast Asia, we entered Japan, we entered Greater China, and we entered Australia and New Zealand, all at the same time, recognizing that the adoption and the readiness of those cultures was primed right now. But the rate of success may be different, and we have actually been enjoying incredible success across all of those regions, and we're very proud of the work that we've done here. We have some incredible clients in India, including Tata Motors and Reliance Capital and Genpact and Aditya Birla Group, among many, many others. And one of the things that we've been blessed with is the talent conversation. One of the things that I am fascinated by with India is that more so than in any other of the Asia Pacific regions, the talent conversation is vibrant. It is happening, and you guys love to talk about it. We love this. And we've been lucky enough to have some great clients who wanted to continue this conversation with us in particular. And we're on a journey with all of them. And we look forward to continuing to build our momentum with support from all of you and being able to be involved in discussions like this in India in particular. So thanks very much. We really appreciate you coming. And I believe some of this dialogue will actually be available on the SHRM website. There's also some collateral here for your reading enjoyment. I wanted to talk about the ROI of talent management, but maybe that's the next roundtable. And I hope everyone keeps trying.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much for joining us, and we can continue to have discussions for those who have some more time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
See you, sir. I also need to run.